I'm so looking forward to today's talk. Now, I want you to get the right impression. When I do these talks, I am not doing it as an expert in a sense of I've mastered everything I'm speaking about, because I'm still on that journey. I'm still developing. I'm still making mistakes. I'm still going through that process. So when I speak with authority and authenticity, because this is real stuff. And I believe the more that I can be vulnerable, the more that I can be honest, it will help a lot of you that are watching this. So I hope that it resonates with you, and I hope that it opens your eyes as well. And the subject for today is about self-worth and knowing your worth. And I hope that you would know your worth and see yourself as God sees you. So from today's talk, I want your self-worth to be increased. And you may not be of faith. You may believe in the universe. You may believe in nothing, but when I say believe in yourself as like God sees you and sees your worth, it's just seeing yourself through the eyes and the lens of love. So I believe that it's so important for you to understand this. And I want to speak about, first and foremost, the definition of self-worth is about the internal value you place on yourself and believing you are worthy of love, respect, and purpose, and not being based on performance or approval. And it's rooted in identity, not achievement. And that is self-worth. So when we look at the value of self-worth, when you have the value of self-worth, you teach people how to treat you. A lot of times you might not be treated how you want to be treated. And it might be because you're not teaching people how to treat you. And you being able to teach people is going to be the value of your self-worth. You make wiser decisions under pressure when you've got good self-worth. You pursue purpose instead of approval. You build healthier relationships because you expect more, and you live from identity, not insecurity. How do you know if you're not valuing yourself? Now, this is broad. When I share these suggestions, it's not covering all of them, but it's some of them that I believe will resonate. So when you're not valuing yourself, you over-explain yourself, you over-justify yourself, instead of just sharing your thoughts and just being able to be rooted in your convictions. You need other people to believe what you believe, and that's something that happens when you're not valuing yourself. When you're not valuing yourself as well, you tolerate disrespect. You tolerate those snide comments. You tolerate when people speak of you as though you are who you were before. You are who you were when you was younger. You tolerate it, and tolerating disrespect, it should not be your portion at all. And you settle in relationships. You settle instead of rising, instead of having greater expectations, instead of having a greater desire for more, you just settle. And that's not for you. You shrink your voice to keep peace. Now, I understand that we have to all try and keep peace or, be that way, but not shrinking our voice, not shrinking who we are because we don't want to unsettle the peace. You've got to be able to have your voice and share your voice and express your voice. And you feel guilty for having standards. Now, when you feel guilty for having standards, that's showing that your self-worth is not where it should be, because you should be able to have standards, and whether people agree them or not, you don't change them and you be yourself. So these are things that we really need to identify and understand. And some of the issues we may experience if these things are not addressed, we will have this never-ending people-pleasing syndrome. If you're always pleasing people and people always need to be pleased and you always have to make people feel happy, that is something that is tiring, and you're going to experience emotional burnout because you're just going to be up and down around other people, and you adopt lower relational expectations. So if you're not addressing low self-worth, you're going to be able to be someone that is You fear to be seen. You know, you don't want to be seen. You want to go into the background. You want to shrink. You know, you don't want to step up. You don't want to arise. You don't want to go forward. You want to settle into the background. You know what I mean? And we want to make sure that that's not the case. And you accept the scraps of life. So when you could be having the banquet, when you could be having a big buffet, when you could be having a greater life experience, you're just accepting the scraps. You're accepting the crumbs. And that's because you feel that you're not worthy. And really and truly, you are worthy. So what does healthy self-worth look like? What does healthy self-worth feel like? It feels like peace when you're alone. You know, you don't need to be around others all the time. You can be in your own company and you feel peace. You feel calm when you're misunderstood. So you don't need people to understand you all the time. You know, even when you're misunderstood, you can still remain calm. And this is something that I have struggled with. You know, there's times that I always about to explain myself or make sure that I've not been misunderstood. But really, when self-worth is high, it's about me being able to be content even though I'm not understood. You know, me having confidence without performance, that's the same for you. You know, can you be confident without performing your best? You know, the reality of it is we don't always perform our best. We're not always shining. We're not always feeling 100%, you know what I mean? So if we're only confident when we're 100%, then our self-worth definitely needs to be improved. You know, we can have self-worth when there's a detachment from approval. You know, that's when we know that we've got self-worth, when we're not attached to someone's approval and having the courage to outgrow people. I think that this can be a delicate one because a lot of times when we come from a certain place, when we come from a certain race, when we come from a certain family, when we come from a certain locality, when we come from a certain community, we might feel that we've got to be a certain way to fit the narrative and to fit the stereotype. But when you start being different, you might be different from those in your family. You might be different from those that are around you, different from friends that you grew up with, you know, because you've chose that I am more than what I have perceived myself to be. And some people may not agree with that, but you being able to have good self-worth is you having the courage to outgrow people. So building self-worth, let's look at some practical steps. So I want you to adjust to a new environment, and I want you to be able to audit the environment that you're currently in. So look at where you are, look at like the friendship groups, look at the work, the colleague groups, look at like the gym groups, whatever it is. Audit your environment because environment really rubs off on you. So if people got lower standards around you, you're going to have lower standards. So that's really important. Raise your relational standards. Expect more from your relationships, whether it's friendships, whether it's business relationships, whether it's, you know, partnerships, whether it's a wife, husband, whatever it is, just raise your relational standards. Stop negotiating the non-negotiables. Understand your values, understand your convictions, and don't allow any and everybody just to change them. You know, it's so important. Invest in your growth. Some people have chosen not to grow. They've chosen to stay the same. They've chosen to stay in the same environment, do the same things when they were teenagers. If you're growing up and you want to be different, invest in your growth and don't be scared to experience the fruit of that, and build discipline, not just motivation. We all can be motivated by social media. We couldn't all be motivated by listening to talks like this. But do we have the discipline to follow through and implement what we're learning? So make sure that you've got the discipline, not just the motivation. You are worth it. And I want you to take from today that you're worth it and believing you're worth it. Like God created you intentionally. There's only one you. There's no other you. You are not an accident. It doesn't matter what the circumstance was, how you've come into this world. You are still on purpose. Your flaws do not cancel your value. Your past does not reduce your worth. You were worth the sacrifice. And I'm a man of faith. I don't know about you, but even if you was the only person in this world, Jesus Christ would have came to this world and he would have died for you to be able to be restored to the Father. So you need to understand your worth. You're worth more than what you may even perceive. So I got a prayer that I want to pray for you and for me, because this is still something I'm going through and growing through. Lord, I want to say today, please help me and help whoever's listening to correct their view of themselves. Help us to be able to see ourselves as you see us. Heal our wounds. Help us to make sure that our insecurities don't make us believe that we're less than who we actually are. Teach us to be able to see the person that you had in mind when you created us before we was even in our mother's womb. And give me the courage, give us all the courage to walk out our worth, that we can represent our worth, represent our value, and we can reintroduce ourselves to people that may need to understand our value. And I pray this right now in Jesus' name. So my final words I want to say is, listen, walk in your worth, stop shrinking, stop settling, stop apologizing, be you, start honoring your calling, and start living like you are chosen. And my homework for you this week is I want you to do one of these things. Write 10 reasons you are valuable beyond achievement. Speak one truth over yourself daily, or remove one environment that lowers your worth. Do that this week. Do that this week. And I want to say thank you for being with me today. Thank you for walking with me through this healing journey. And come back with me next week as we heal together, and share this with someone that you feel will be encouraged, someone that would experience this and they would value this. Thank you very much, and take care.